exciting news. I'm almost finished with Les Mis. Someone asked me the other day if I was reading it in French, and while that would be fun, I don't think I have the patience for that. Because with this book in English, I can tell what are the boring parts that are not relevant to the plot. He spends 15 chapters talking about Napoleon and the Battle of Waterloo. And then he ends that part with, by the way, Pontmercy and Thénardier were there. There's also a very long piece where he pontificates on the nature of political philosophy and, oh, I think it's actually, I wrote down the page because this made me really excited. He goes off. There are two problems. First problem, to produce wealth. Second problem, to share it. And then later he goes, solve only the first of the two problems, i.e. creating wealth, and yada 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 yada, you will be the wicked rich man. You will die by an act of violence, as Venice did, or by bankruptcy, as England will fall. And the world will allow to die and fall all that is merely selfishness, all that does not represent for the human race either a virtue or an idea. Victor Hugo said, eat the rich. That's not what I'm here to talk about either. I'm not here to talk about Les Mis. I'm actually here because I've decided I'm committing. And committing to me means hopping on the BookTube trains and like doing all the things that are kind of cool and trendy in the BookTube community. And the first one of those is the new to BookTube tag. There are a bunch of tags circulating on the internet, and they've been around since like 2013, 2014. Essentially a book tag is just where somebody tags you and says answer these questions and then tag other people, and so you do the questions and that's like your video content. I've watched a couple of introductory like new to BookTube video tag videos, and this is the one that I'm about to do is the one that I decided I liked the best, that kind of gave the best video content. And so those are the questions I'm going to answer today. And yeah, if I have shown up in your comments and have left you a comment, that means I think your video is cool and you seem cool and we should be friends if you think my video is cool. Ha. Question number 1. Where are you joining us from? I am in Houston, Texas right now. I'm like very, very close to Montrose and Buffalo Bayou. If you are in the Houston area and know where that is. I live in a very large apartment with roaches. How old are you? I am 22. By the time that we get around to the roaring summer months where the Les Mis fandom rises from the ashes for a period of 48 hours and then vanishes into obscurity for another year, I will be 23. My birthday takes place on the same day as the events of Les Mis, or at least some of them. My birthday takes place on June 6th. My birthday takes place, yes, it does, annually, on June 6th. Anyways, question number 3, why did you join BookTube? I made a kind of introductory video a few days ago that is probably in the direction of where my thumb is pointing, but essentially I joined BookTube because I've been looking for kind of new avenues to connect to the book community, to practice putting myself out there as a person who has a public presence on the internet, and also to kind of answer some of the questions in my immediate social circle about hey Erica, you know a lot more about books than a lot of other people in our social circle, so you should actually do something with that and tell people about the books you like and help other people find those books. And that's how I find books, so if I can be that person for somebody else, that sounds lit. What is the meaning behind your channel name? So my channel name is Rika Sales. That's a combination of my name, which is Erica, my initials, ELS, and an online alias that I used for a while, which is Rikasa, which is kind of a play on the way you make nicknames for Japanese idols. I know that's very specific, but that is where I got that alias, is on weird web forums for Japanese idols. Yeah, I liked the idea of Rika Sales because it's a combination of things in my name already, but it gives me this vibe of sailing, blue and white, and because it's spelled A-E as the ale, it reminds me of fantasy names, high fantasy names I don't know, it feels like Sky Pirates. Okay, number 5. What types of books do you read / want to talk about on here? The majority of books that I read are fantasy books. Honestly, I think most of the books in terms of sheer quantity I read are going to be YA fantasy, but I'm also really interested in like leaning harder into the adult fantasy genre. I think I struggled for a long time getting into adult fantasy because there is something like tonally obscure, and I think that's changed lately, especially, and this sounds like a very big overgeneralization, but I'm going to use it anyways, especially as more women, and especially women of color, have gotten into the adult fantasy like publishing space. Books have opened up in terms of the voices of like who they're letting in and who they're inviting to come sit at the table with them. I think in the past I've struggled with like, even if you had like a strong female character, I just kind of felt like I was being like not invited to books that were adult sci-fi fantasy, and so I struggled with both like in the language, but then also like in the way a lot of like, I guess, classic literature views its world, and like the way that women are viewed in worlds is typically like either, you know, she's a badass, amazing thief, or she's like oppressed because she's a woman and has to overcome that oppression, and I'm just tired of like the overcoming oppression as a woman narrative. It's just kind of stale. I'm interested in other versions of femininity. That's another thing. I'm interested in versions of femininity. So like, oh, and masculinity. Big on gender exploration here. Yeah, I'm interested in books that take on power in a very critical way, and I think a lot of that work is being done in YA, and not a lot of people are recognizing that, and that is a darn shame. Number 5, 6. What are some of my favorite authors? Oh. When I think about a favorite author, that's a hard question because to me it implies like somebody that you always go back to, somebody that has like, every time they release a book you're like, oh, I know I like this author, I'm gonna read all their books. And a lot of the authors that I really respect and a lot of the books that I really love now are authors that have only put out like maybe, you know, 1 to 3 books. So like, that's kind of hard to say that they're like your favorite author based on only a couple of books. And so for me, it's like, I don't really know. Number 7, what's the last book you read? So the book I'm currently reading, as you all know, because I've already talked about it a lot, is Les Mis. But the book I read before that, like just before starting Les Mis, is A River of Royal Blood by Amanda Joy. Pretty sure that's the last one. It could have been The Starless Sea, but I'm pretty sure it was A River of Royal Blood. 9, what do you use for bookmarks? So I have like 3 bookmarks that exist in all of my books because I'm reading, so the way I've been reading recently is just like one book after another. Like I finish a book, I put it on my bookshelf, I take the next book I'm reading off my bookshelf and I stick the bookmark in it. So it's either one of 2 bookmarks. It's this bookmark, which I got in Weimar, Germany in the Bauhaus Museum. Yeah, I know, I can't believe I kept that bookmark. This bookmark has been with me since literally since my 18th birthday, which is 4 years ago. So I've had that bookmark for almost 5 years. And then additionally, I have a shit ton of these, which are the bookmarks that they give to you in my local indie bookstore, Brazos, which is an amazing bookstore if you're in the Houston area. But yeah, they're beautiful. They're these nice, elegant red bookmarks, and they give them to you in like every book you buy, and so I have a ton of them. And so I just cycle through them, and when they wear out, I just replace them with the next one that comes in the next book I buy. 10, show us your current TBR pile. Okay, this is gonna be interesting. So, I currently am lucky enough to have enough bookshelf space to house all of the books I have here. I have some books at my parents' house, which is in Atlanta, and I'm going to try and take more of those back with me when I go back home briefly in April, but for now, I've just bought another bookshelf, so all my books fit on my bookshelves. And therefore, all of my TBR books are mixed into my bookshelf, and I will show them to you. This is my bookshelf arrangement. It's 3 shelves here, 5 shelves there, 3 and a little bit there. So all the books I haven't read on my bookshelf are flagged with these little sticky tabs. So Neverwhere, and I need to read The Bone Witch by Rin Chupeco, which is why Shadow Glass is up there, without the other books. Celestial Bodies, The Night Tiger, The Female Persuasion. Yeah, I know, Infinite Jest, I have read that. Yeah, there's some more over here. And my April TBR, which I should have already posted a video for, but that's here too. And then, yeah, the same policy goes for nonfiction books. So that's my TBR. So question 11 is a bunch of like would you rathers. So the first one is hardcover or paperback. I prefer paperbacks, but most of the people I'm following on Twitter are other authors, and so I get really excited, or agents, and so I get really excited when their books are announced, and when the titles are announced, and when the covers are released, and when the excerpts are released, all the way leading up to the book day. I get so excited, and so I need to buy the book like immediately. That's the next question. I do prefer having a physical book. I can't actually read on a screen. Can't do it. Like, it's hard. And then the other thing for me is that I associate books that I'm reading on the screen either as fan fiction or my own writing. So it always feels incomplete to me, and so it just doesn't feel as satisfying as having like a physical book. For a lot of people, having a physical book is a way to also mark the page count, and for me that's definitely true. Like, if I hadn't been getting hungry and knowing that I needed to record a video before the sun went down, I would have definitely kept reading Les Mis all the way to the end, even though it's 200 more pages, because my bookmark feels so close to the end. And then owning or borrowing books. I own all my books. And it feels, I don't know, to me, owning a lot of books is just something I want. Like, I want my house to be filled with books. I like the ability to just pick it up and reference it when I'm talking about them. I like the ability to loan out books to other people. I also do have a problem with purchasing books. Just again, I really like holding them. I really like looking at the covers. I feel like a book is a work of art, and so I want to keep it and like hoard them. It's probably not the greatest thing, seeing as I live on a very, very, very small salary. But you know what I figured? And this is what I told my mom, is that I'm going to spend all of my money right now either on books or I'm going to put it into a retirement account. And when I retire, I'm going to spend that money on books. So, logically, if I spend the money on books now, I'm going to have much more knowledge by the time I retire, versus I would have a lot more money but less knowledge. And to me, knowledge is way more important than money. 12. What book or series got you into reading? That's a really tough question. I really don't remember getting into reading. Like, I don't remember how young I was when I was really into reading. I was really into reading until about, I would say, the age of 13 or so. I think around that point is when I started writing a lot but not reading a lot. And I honestly think it was just because I had not found anything that captivated me to the point of the Warrior Cat series. I was so into the Warrior Cat series. The Warrior Cat series was my entire childhood and adolescence. I've reread them several times. I read all the way up to I feel like I've read all the way up to the 4th series, the Doveheart and Ivypool one. Yeah, that's as far as I got. I was really convinced it was ending there, and then it didn't, as the way of things that make a lot of money go. In my high school life, I kind of dropped reading altogether, which is part because I was working really hard in high school. I had a lot of things going on. It happens to, I think, most people. That's just the point where most people begin tapering off of reading. And then in college, it was difficult for me to continue reading simply because I read too much for school. To the point where I was like, you know, I'm reading 200 to 300 pages per day just to keep up with my course load, and I was that asshole that read all the books for class, every class. I read Spinoza cover to cover because it was assigned to me in a class that we're on the first day. The professor said, I don't expect you to do the reading for this class. I did all the reading for the class. But needless to say, it didn't leave me a lot of room to read much. But in my senior year of high school, I decided that I was going to spend 30 minutes on Tuesdays and Thursdays reading before class every day, and that was really good, and it got me into the routine of reading, and then I just kept that up after I graduated college, and now I'm reading like 15 books a month. How did I discover BookTube? I kind of knew it existed. I've known it existed for a while, so I've been slowly like dipping my toes into following more and more corners of the book community. I spend a lot of time, like I mentioned earlier, on book Twitter, mainly to follow authors that I'm excited about their books, or agents that I might want to query whose clients write interesting books, because that's the reason I want to query them, and so on and so forth. And then from there you find book bloggers who tell you about all the good books, and from there it just kind of spilled over into BookTube for me. I think as well, like, I only started really getting into BookTube in like the past 6 months or so, because I realized, like, hey, this is a format of learning about books that actually works better for me than book blogs, because book blogs, like I mentioned, is a lot of reading and a lot of writing on top of like all the reading and writing that I want to do for just the excitement of reading and writing, if that makes sense. Oh no, my camera's about to run out of battery. So lightning round. What challenges do you think you'll face on your channel? It'll be hard for me to keep consistency, but I'm really hoping to do it. I'm hoping I will fall in love with this, and yeah. The other thing is I feel like I'm easily discouraged from like diving deep into friendships and like making a name for myself online, which is dumb, because this is the whole point of this, is to like be comfortable speaking online. And so gotta get over that and just push through. But if you are watching this and you want to be my friend, I want to be your friend. I'm just really bad at it. Where else can you find me? Everything is in the description. But I have a website. It's my first and my middle name with an S on the end, ericalins.com. My Instagram is the same as my YouTube channel name, Rika Sales. And then I have a Twitter. It's Improbable Rika, so the word improbable and then my name smushed together. That's because I was really terrible when I was 15, and I was like, anything improbable, that's what I want to be associated with. Anyway, so that's it. My camera's about to run out of battery. I'm gonna go finish Les Mis and also make myself some pasta, because that's quarantine life, baby. Like I said, I'm really excited to get to know people on this forum, and it's really hard for me to post comments on strangers' posts, but I'm going to push myself to do it so that I can actually make friends with the people whose videos I see and I'm like, oh my gosh, that person looks so cool. So if I do that, or if I haven't done that, it's probably just because I haven't seen your video. So if you want me to watch it, tell me down in the comments and I will go do that.